On today's podcast, we welcome music supervisor Mason Cooper, where we discuss the most important relationships you need to develop to place your music into visual media, as well as the steps you need to take if you want to pursue a career in music supervision. This is one episode you can't afford to miss. Insiders, are you ready?
Welcome to MUBUTV's Music Business Insider Podcast, where our mission is to educate, empower, and engage artists and music business professionals who are dedicated to having a successful career in the new music industry. Here are your hosts, Rich Ezra and Eric Knight.
Welcome back, Insiders, to another episode of the MUBUTV Music Business Insider Podcast, where our mission is to educate, empower, and engage your music career. On today's episode, we sit down with veteran music supervisor Mason Cooper. We discuss the relationships you need to effectively place your music, as well as what you need to be doing if you want a career in music supervision. You don't want to miss it. But first, a word from our sponsor. Hey, Insiders, are you looking to take your music career to the next level? Then you need to know about the Music Business Registry. The Music Business Registry is the leading music industry publisher of the most up-to-date contact information for major and independent record label A&R, music publishers, artist managers, music attorneys, music supervisors, and much, much more. The Music Business Registry is the trusted industry standard and source, serving the music business community for over 28 years with the most accurate and up-to-date contact information available. Their titles include the A&R Registry, the Film and Television Music Monthly, the Music Publisher Registry, and the Music Attorney Registry. All of their publications are available in print, PDF, CSV, or online subscription. Visit them now at musicregistry.com and receive a 10% discount by using coupon code MUBUTV10 at checkout. That's musicregistry.com, coupon code MUBUTV10. When you're ready to put your music to work, musicregistry.com.
Welcome back, Insiders. Today's featured guest is veteran music supervisor Mason Cooper. This was an interesting interview, Eric. You know, Mason has been involved in so many film and television shows over the years, and I thought some of the points, sync is such an important factor in so many artists and publishers and labels' financial pictures today. And one of the things that I thought that was so interesting that he talked about were the important relationships that you need to develop and cultivate in terms of placing your music into film and TV and other visual media today.
Yeah, it's like anything else that we've talked about millions of times on the show about how your network and, who it is that can get you opportunities. And he goes into an interesting explanation about it. I also thought that one of the interesting things that you guys are going to listen to now is about, when we talked about how the music drives the story more than in the past. And I thought he had a unique take on that. So I thought, that's going to be something interesting for our insiders to listen to.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, so many times, to pick up on what you were just saying, you get people who think it's about a music supervisor finding 5 minutes to listen to their music to place it into, a TV show. And that's not the purpose or the role of the job. The role of a music supervisor is to serve the picture or the television show that they're working. And if you've done your homework, then you have something that can contribute to that.
With that, sit back, relax, and enjoy our featured conversation with Mason Cooper.
Mason, welcome.
Thank you, Rich. Good to see you.
It's great to see you too. I appreciate you doing this. This is great. Thank you. Mason, when in your life did you know that music was going to be your professional career path?
Interesting. I've been in music since I was 4 or 5 years old as a musician, the typical growing up playing French horn, piano, all that. Went to college for music at Arizona State, went down to Nashville to Belmont. And really it was probably at Arizona State, I was a business management major. It was the first year in my life that I wasn't focused fully on music. So I started to research, what if I wanted to get into music, but I don't want to be a conductor, I don't want to be a rock and roll musician or a French horn player? And I started finding books on record production. And it was fascinating because, most people just realize or just think that music is created. It exists. You turn on the radio, music exists. So that's when I decided to go down to Nashville and I learned about music publishing, and I went to, through classes and through meeting people and realized, oh, there's a whole industry out here that people aren't aware of how things get made and put together. And that's when the light bulb went off.
This is Eric. Thank you so much, Mason, for joining us.
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask you, do you find that music is used to drive more of the stories than in the past?
We all approach it differently. So there's no carte blanche answer to that. But the word driving is interesting because I've had some producers who don't want music to, quote, drive a scene, meaning it overshadows the scene and that's the energy and that's the topic and that's the storyline, because that means that they missed in the script side or the acting side or the editing side. So it's interesting you use that word about driving. So, but it really is dependent on the project. Naturally, there's musicals or about to embark on a film that has a lot of dance elements and others that would utilize music. But mostly, I prefer using music as the subtext, the support, the ambiance.
That's what I think I meant in the question, that music is supporting what it's doing.
Yes,
Yeah.
because you're not, unless you're making a music video,
Right.
it isn't about the music. And that's kind of my take on it.
Mason, how are music supervisors chosen for the particular projects that they get hired for?
Like so many other things, it truly comes down to relationships and networks. You know, I started out as a music publisher and I started pitching music to producers and to directors. And it was kind of before there were a zillion music supervisors. And I had a couple directors and producers saying, we love what you're pitching to us. We wish we had someone on our side, to use a baseball analogy, to be the catcher. And why don't you come over on our side? And really, it was developing the network. If I worked with a director, I met their producer. If I worked with a producer, I met their director. So now, as they say, those two people turn into 4 people, turned into 8 people. Otherwise, it's just referral. You know, I need a music supervisor. If you can't do it, you know somebody else, and they start to refer people. And I do know people in publishing companies and record companies. There's a lot of these young people that are very smart, and they're getting in the industry any which way. They're becoming licensing specialists or A&R people or music publishers or in the copyright department or the royalty department, learning the business. And everyone has another dream. And I talk to so many of these young people that are licensing clearance people at the publishing companies and labels. And when I say, is this what you want to do for your living? They're like, no, I want to be a music supervisor. But now they're learning what, quote, because as a music supervisor, I have to deal with them. So they're getting the experience as them. So then when they sit in this seat, they understand both sides of it. So that's a smart way that a lot of these young people are also getting into it. And then because of their relationships, when they're referred to a director or producer, they actually have a background and they know how to handle things.
Yeah, it's a very important part because music supervision, the music part, as you well know, is only one aspect of that particular job scope, the full scope of that particular job. The selecting of music or the recommendation of music is only one aspect.
Right. Well, people, you know, and there's a lot of my peers that are like this, and a lot of people outside that wish that they could be in this. They see music supervision and the highlight is on the word music. That's the fun part, absolutely. But the supervision is the necessary part. You know, if you make a great album as an artist and then you never mix it, you're never going to put it out. So same thing with music supervision. If you really know all sides of it, the fun side and the business side, the other side, then you put it all together. Then you actually are beneficial to your project.
It's a perfect segue to my next question. As a music supervisor, what advice would you offer to artists, songwriters, and others that are wanting to get their music licensed into films, TV shows, commercials, or video games or other forms of visual media?
I love that question. I am not a fan, and we've all heard it, write for sync, okay? Oh, write for sync. Oh, make sure that do not do that. I tell people, write your music that you want to make it great, which is subjective. And if you are happy with every single note, every single word, I was a music publisher. So I used to sit with songwriters and I would say, was every word and every note purposeful? Did you do it on purpose? Is it exactly what you meant? You are now 100% fulfilled. So you have this great song that you've now created as a writer, as a singer, as a producer. Now, will someone else in the world like it? Who knows? That's the marketing of it. So to get your songs used in film or television, that's the marketing. But the first thing is write a song that you're happy with. Then realize, and this is a big one, I'm not looking for your song because your song is great. I'm looking for it because it supports the scene or the character or the underlying emotion that I need, which is different every day on every project. So I'm not sure if I skirted around the answer, but that is like, go write your great song and then probably learn the business. Because one of the things for me is if you play me a great song and I say, hey, I'd like to use your song, here's the clearance, here are the terms, and you're sitting there going, well, what does all media mean? What does perpetuity mean? Well, what are you trying to do? Wait, is this exclusive or non-exclusive? All these questions that let me know that now I have to spend my time educating you when I actually should be going and doing my job. So educate yourself about the terminology, about the phraseology, about how the business works. So when someone wants to use your song, you're ready to say yes, because you understand what they're needing from you. And then work with companies and with people that do this for a living. There are people, sync reps, publishers, managers, artist reps, that they know the business, they have the network. Let them put your music into place, but then you follow up and start developing your own network of people so you can get more direct to people.
I think that's great advice.
Let me ask you, you've been in the music supervision field for a long time. From your point of view, are there new opportunities that you're seeing in music supervision, such as, consumer videos or micro licensing or, visual media just for the internet rather than just music supervision for television or for films or for commercials?
Absolutely. I mean, the breadth of the media, the globalization has absolutely expanded what is needed out there. People ask me, I do mostly independent feature films. I've done television series. I've done specials, music concerts, but again, mostly feature films. People have asked me, oh, can you do video games? And the answer is I probably could, but I'd have to learn a different application of the language. And there are people that specialize in that. Children's projects, animated, cartoons, or, different language, the internet, podcasts. I'm being asked now to clear music for podcasts, and I have to learn a new language because just doing this show right here, if you're going to use music, it's a different kind of license. Again, it's maybe not apples and oranges, but it's different type of apples. So yes, there are so many different new avenues that are outlets for audio and for video that there's areas for music supervisors to come in and specialize. Not that they can't do more, but they can specialize in these new areas, this new media.
Mason, as a music supervisor, what are the most important relationships within the industry that you have to cultivate today?
As a music supervisor?
Yes.
Really, it is my relationships with the directors and the producers. They're very special to me. It's one reason why there's some music supervision companies that are very broad and they hire music coordinators and assistants. And I've just been somebody that never can source out my relationships. So, and most of my work has been repeat business with producers and with directors, which is great because it saves me from having to try to find my next gig. What's my next project? Because I have enough directors, enough producers that are always working. And then they introduced me to new people also, but those are very special. And those relationships are a lot about me listening to them so I can be the right partner for them, because I'm not telling them what to do. I'm helping them fulfill a vision of a project that they have. And that's very fruitful and fulfilling.
I want to talk about a specific area of your work, which is trailers. And trailers, they're a totally different world, as you know. They're different budgets. They're different people deciding what music or composers to use. There's different usages and a different purpose, often creatively serving the picture that is, supporting the marketing of it. What are the greatest challenges you face in the trailer area?
Really understanding the fact that, as the old saying goes, trailers are selling soap. The budgets for some trailers for music are sometimes oftentimes higher than what I have for a whole film. On the other hand, indie films where a distributor comes and says, you make your own trailer, then they're using library music and others, and there is no budget. So you go from the budgets are huge because we literally are selling tickets to we have no budget, but we want to try to promote our film. So what I have to do for myself is we're always aiming to get as many rights as we can when we license music for the film. Almost always, we can get in context promo and trailer rights, which means to those, for your listeners, if in a trailer, a certain segment of a film is lifted exactly from the film, so the audio is embedded in that clip, we have the rights because that audio is being used in context of how it was used exactly in the film. We can use that in a trailer. The minute you extend it longer or use it differently or mix it differently, now it's called out of context. Publishers and labels will charge, they will exclude that from the license, and that's a brand new license and a brand new charge, and sometimes very expensive. So a challenge for me is budgeting, arm wrestling with a publisher and a label to include at least in context, if not out of context, which very seldom happens with the majors. And then knowing how hard to fight that and letting my producers know this is going to be an extra cost. Because again, trailers serve a different purpose. They're advertising the energy or the key points of a film that really has nothing to do with the film.
Precisely. Yeah, it's a whole different medium with a whole different set of characters and a whole different budgets.
Right. And trailer companies very often have their own people that they go to. I don't work trailers just by themselves. I will sometimes assist with trailers for my films. But there are people, back to an earlier question, that specialize in trailer music. There's composers, right. There's artists, there's writers, there's even music supervisors that work with those trailer companies to help them find and source and build music for trailers.
And staying on that subject with trailers, is the area of trailers becoming broader, making trailers depending on the platform, theatrical, TV, online, social media, etc.?
Well, it is. And that's a question that I ask my producers very often. Hey, we need to build this trailer. We're an indie film and the distributor wants us to do it. And my question then is this going to be theatrical? Is it going to be broadcast? Is it only an online trailer? There are some companies that I work with that are brands, and they do these little mini movies that are still branded. So there's a fine line between, are they a kind of a commercial, but there's 30-minute videos that are lifestyle videos. And they'll always say, oh, we want to put a trailer together. And I'm always having to ask about the media that they're going, because a theatrical trailer versus just a YouTube trailer is budgeted differently. They're going to be, the rights and the license terms are different. So absolutely, where the trailer's playing will affect all the way down the line, from budgets to rights to even the music they play. Because some things translate, you need the big screen. Some things just need to underlie on a podcast trailer or a YouTube trailer or Facebook.
Today, we see more and more films being funded independently, sometimes from sources completely outside of entertainment. And I'm wondering, Mason, has this affected the flexibility on how music makes its way into a film for you?
You know, I like the challenge of finite budgets because it forces us to be more creative in how we find and source music. Someone once asked me, if you had a $200 million film, can you music supervise that? And my answer is, well, with one or two hands tied behind my back, because I get to go to any artist and say, I'd like to use your song. Here's a blank check. You write the numbers in. But on these independent features that you're talking about with investors who are really looking at, will I even get my money back? Other than passion projects, everybody wants to make their money back and actually hopefully make money. So it forces us to look for sources and to use music in creative ways. And for me to build networks of writers, artists, managers, where I literally can have long-term relationships. Because if I'm going to turn to someone and say, I know you want $50,000 for your song, or $5,000 or $1,000, but I have $500. I'd rather pay you $50,000, but I only have $500. And they look at me and say, yeah, but you keep coming back to me film after film after film and trying to find opportunities for me. So I'm in it for the long haul with you. So I build those relationships, which goes back to an earlier question that you had about, for the artists and musicians and writers, how do they get their music in? Be in it for the long game. If you meet a music supervisor or a director and say, I have a song for your project, and if they say, well, it's not right, don't walk away and grumble and forget them. Be in it for the long game, because at some point there will be the right project for your piece of music.
Hey, Insiders, we hope that you've been enjoying our featured interview. Stay tuned because we've got so much more value coming your way. But before we dive back in, a word from our sponsor. So, hey, Rich, tell me a little bit about the Music Business Registry.
Well, what we are, Music Business Registry is the leading contact directory. We publish all of the most current, accurate, and up-to-date contact information for the music industry. We do directories for A&R, We do directories for music publishers. We do directories for film and television music. We do directories of artist managers, and we do directories of music attorneys. And we also sell other publications too, like the Indie Bible series, the YouTube Bible series, the Indie Spotify Bible series, and other things as well. That's what we're about.
So if I wanted to find out, let's say, the music supervisor for American Horror Story, I can kind of go into the Film and TV monthly and find the information that I need there?
Well, we don't list specific shows. If you know who the music supervisor is, and you can find that out on IMDb, then you can find their contact information. And we have that in our Film and Television Music Monthly. Absolutely, yes.
That's great. And I hear that we have a discount right now. If you go to musicregistry.com and use coupon code MUBUTV10 at checkout, you'll receive 10% off your first order.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, we offer that to all of the MUBUTV insiders.
So insiders, check out musicregistry.com and use MUBUTV10 as your coupon code. And it's a perfect segue to the next question. Have you been involved in any unique situations that have brought any additional type of value outside of the immediate monetary return to a songwriter or a composer?
Yes, just in general terms, I've had many writers say, you've triggered my career. Because as I also tell them, everything that you do is private and confidential for yourself. Nobody knows if you made $1,000 or $100,000 on that license. All they know is, hey, you got that piece of music. I heard your song in that movie. So managers, artists especially, I always say, make hay, make the mountain out of that molehill. You should be, all over social media. You should be talking about it at your live shows. You should be doing all of that because all of a sudden now you have another story point that you can market yourself with. But I've had artists who have said, my Spotify hits are going up, my plays are going up, I'm getting more likes, social media, but mostly it's, songwriters and independent artists have said, you know what, I am now more confident. I actually understand how it works now, and I'm actually starting to pitch more and getting more uses, and now I actually feel like I'm doing this for a living. So that's pretty fulfilling.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's that whole development. It's a bigger thing than just the money. It's a career.
Right.
The career aspect. With more and more films, Mason, as well as TV shows becoming more global and being broadcast in more markets worldwide outside the U.S., has that changed what type of music you license, in particular if the film is broadcast in rapidly emerging international markets?
Yes and no. It doesn't change the type of music. That doesn't come into the equation of what I would pick for a particular scene or particular film. That being said, I just finished a film, Lamborghini, that was in Italy about Lamborghini, and we had to use we wanted to be as authentic as we could. Now, we used music from here, and we used music in the style, but we found a lot of authentic Italian music because it was true to the story. Again, so it wasn't about the globalization, true to the story. Working on another project right now, another period piece that goes from the States to Germany in the mid 20th century and during the war times and all that. So we're looking at music that just creates an authenticity globally, as opposed to, I'm not changing what I'm doing for a film because, this is going to be released in Europe or this is going to be released in Australia. So maybe we should add those kind of artists because it'll intrigue them for the audience. Nobody's seeing a movie because there's a song 40 minutes in that restaurant. Okay. So really my approach, I guess, so yes and no, because globalization of the film industry, but as far as a film itself, I'm not taking that into account.
Mason, what's the greatest satisfaction that you get in being a music supervisor?
Oh, wow. I come from the music business and I've come as a musician, like I said, since 4 years old. And I was a music publisher for years, and I've had a long career and worked with some of the most famous and major artists over a long period of time. But when I started working in music supervision, another part of me came out, which was I also at Arizona State was a theater major. And I was the actor that then I studied at Lee Strasberg Theater Institute and with some major acting coaches here. And it was very much that's great, Mason, keep your day job. So, however, and when I wrote TV themes for a while, which I had a couple network TV themes, and I got to, go to set and say, well, I'm not in the show, but because I wrote the theme, I'm allowed to be backstage and eat free catering. So this is kind of cool. But other than the humor of that, what happened was, as a music supervisor, that acting and theater and story side of me has been able to come out more. So the fulfilling part for me is I no longer consider myself in the music business. I'm in the film business. Stories come in song form. They come in many forms, but I like the long form of that. So I've gone from being a music person to a film person. I'm a filmmaker now, and that's how I look at it. And that's fulfilling for me, helping people come through with their vision that they've set. Because some of these films have taken years and decades to make. So, I mean, I'm finishing a film right now that it's going to be a major, it's coming out in 3,000 theaters, major film that the director started, his muse of this idea started around 1998.
Unbelievable.
So it's been a long time.
You know, it's a great segue into my next question, which is, you know, throughout your life, you must have seen a lot of incredible films and read a lot of incredible books. And I'm curious, what books or films have you seen that have really been inspiring to you, professionally speaking, that you can refer to our audience?
Wow, those are those questions. Rich, you know I don't like those questions.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. I'll have to think about that, and somewhere when this comes out in the comment section, I'll have to add some answers to that. You know, I did a lot of reading, a lot of novels. I loved all the Tom Clancy novels, and I loved old Westerns. I loved historical fiction, which reading gives you a perspective. And it lets you see how other people are seeing stories, and it lets you understand the characters. Now, screenwriting and writing novels are very different. So I've had to learn that craft also. And that said, I really was a TV holic, I would say, interestingly enough, more than film. And then I started working in TV, and my wife said, be careful what you ask for, because the pace of TV is so different. It's so fast. And it was enjoyable, but it was, it's very different. So for me, watching from MASH to West Wing to Entourage, I mean, all of these, you just really delve into the characters. And I think that's where I started to love also film. Film is more of immediate gratification because you're in, 90 to 120 minutes, you're in, you're out. You get the full scope. But the best films, and we talk about this a lot when we're making films, if you don't care about the characters, nobody's going to care about your film. So that really, I would say, I'm not answering a question to a specific film, again, because I was like this TV holic for so long. That being said, I watch a lot of films, and it's about the character. It's about caring. I can watch the most deep, heartfelt film or the silliest popcorn rom-com. It doesn't matter. If you care about the character, there's depth there.
Mason, what advice can you offer our listeners who are wanting to pursue a career as a music supervisor?
You know what? Everyone comes at it from something different. If you're a musician, you have your angle. If you're an accountant or a money person or a finance person, you have your angle. If you are an organized person, you have your angle. So allow yourself to be true to yourself, because now you're offering something different than the other person next to you. Not better, not worse, just different, because you are bringing your unique self to it. I have some peers that are what I would call musicologists. They know music in and out, everything. I'm not. I am more of an etch-a-sketch. I look at every scene as a blank slate, and then an hour later, I'm on another scene, and it's a blank slate, because I want fresh ears and a fresh concept every time. And I have to go research the music and find the music right for the scene, where I have other supervisor friends that are they know their music all around the world. How to apply it may be different than I would do it, but they know their music. I'm researching and finding the music. So we're coming at it from two different angles. So be true to yourself would be one. Learn the language and learn the business. You can go to school for it. You can intern for people. You can assist people. You can just get in, roll your sleeves up, and try to work on student films and helping people do it. You can read books. There's a lot of great books. I'm not going to list them here because I don't know if that's the protocol for that, but there's a lot of great books about music business that are out there.
Yeah, you can.
That, this business of music and the Braybeck's books and all of that you can learn, and you're learning the key phrases. You're learning why people are doing things, how they've done it in the past, and maybe you'll have an idea of how to come in the future with it. Also study the non-fun parts, the licenses. You can actually Google online and look for an example of a synchronization license or a master license or whatever it is, and you'll find 20 different forms. Go look at the same key clause on, let's say, indemnification, and go see how they're written differently, and then make up your own clause using the best of all of those. Just learn the language and understand it, because then when you want to go to a music supervisor like myself or others and say, can I assist you on your film? I'd like to learn how to do it. I don't have to teach you from scratch the rudimentary elements.
Same question, but reversed in the sense that what advice would you have for our audience members who are recording artists who want to pursue a professional career in music?
Other than keep your day job? Okay. Yeah, that was told to me, so I have to pass it on. Very similar. There are no rules in music. When it comes to legal aspects and rights, there are certain rules that we have to follow, usually someone else's rules that I'm required to follow. In music, there are no rules. Make the music that you want to make, okay? When I was a musician years ago and people would say, wow, that's a great sound. What did you MIDI? What 5, 6 thing? What did you do? And I'm like, I'm not that advanced. I just bought this new keyboard and I said, patch 22, what's that sound like? And everyone was blown away by that because everyone was trying to invent and create. Just do what sounds good to you. Do the music you want. Don't do it for anyone else, but don't shortchange yourself, because we all know, just like the old-fashioned rock and roll guitar posers, are you really good, or are you just like swinging your hair around because you're not that good? Okay, don't be a poser. Make every note count and make yourself feel fulfilled as an artist. You're now halfway there. The rest is marketing.
Mason, where can people best connect with you and Songrunner?
I will say, I'm not going to tell them where or how to do that, because I'm unique in this, not the only one, so unique isn't the word. I'm odd in this, in that I am imminently findable. If somebody wants to find me, that's all I'm going to say. I am imminently findable. Now, when they find me and they see how do I pitch to you, I have on my website directions and instructions on how to pitch to me. I have my own protocol, very different than others. I'm a strange bird that says I like getting an MP3 attached to an email, because I can open the email, hit the preview bar, and start listening to your song. I don't have to go to the email, open the email, go to a link, have the link open in a browser, open the page, go to somewhere else to stream it. Or
I think you're the first person that has ever said that in that way and presented it. It's true.
The second way I said was 5, 6, 7 steps, where my way is 1 step. Now, if you abuse it, I also delete emails a lot. So again, I'm not going to give the rules here, because if somebody wants to find me, if they don't follow the rules, and if the email pops up and it isn't a certain way with a certain subject line and with a certain focus in it, I look and say, you're not respecting my time and you didn't do the work. You have to do the work. You have to understand your audience. If you're pitching to me, I'm your audience. If you're an artist, you're not going to go to if you're a heavy metal artist, you're not going to go and say, can I open for Carrie Underwood? You have to know your audience. Right. So if you're pitching to me, follow the directions, follow the instructions. The odd part of me, other than that, with the MP3s is I'm findable. I list what I need. Don't pitch me what I don't need. That's one of the rules right there.
So that you're very specific when they land there.
Very specific, yes.
Okay, wonderful. Mason, we can't thank you enough for doing this. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
This is fascinating, and you guys are great, so thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Really, really insightful stuff from Mason. I mean, he made a lot of great points in this conversation. One of the most significant ones that I thought he talked about, which I loved, was how not to write for sync. Don't write for sync. Write the best song you can. Make every melody and lyric really count. That really stood out to me. This idea of, trying to make everything generic and everything sort of fit some sort of prescribed standard of what film or TV is going to use is absolutely ludicrous. You just need to make the song the best that it can be, rather than the other way around. I thought that was a very, very interesting point.
Yeah, writing your music and make it great, I think, is what he said. And I think that that's something that's, that stands true today. I love that he talked about, and, we alluded to it earlier during the intro, was about, the whole point about how music drives the story than in the past. And I thought he had a unique take on that he said says that, directors don't want the music to drive the scene. They want the dialogue and the scene to drive it. And, he talks about that music is there to more be a supportive role. And, we talked about it before we hit record on this, that there's the double-edged sword to that, because there could be some scenes that the music is the driving force of that. And we've seen that in several occasions. And so I thought that was really interesting of what he had to say about that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, music is a supportive part, certainly a supportive part in the creative aspect of music, of film and television today. The other aspect that I thought was really fascinating was how he said, the role of the music supervisor is often misunderstood, and it's a job that many people want to have, but under a misappropriation, they think it's something that it's not.
Right.
And how, the music of music supervision
part of it,
is only one aspect of the job. There's the creative aspect, which is the music, but then there's also the business
administrative
aspect.
side of it.
And the administrative of getting songs cleared, of negotiating the license fees, how much to use, how, who's involved, having those people skills and relationships in terms of getting the job done. That's a very, very important part of the music supervision job. The other part that I thought was really important to him were the relationships that you need to have music be placed into film and TV, and what relationships those are and how important they are in terms of accomplishing your job. That was a very important part of this conversation. The other aspects that I thought were really interesting too, Eric, were the new opportunities that are existing in sync for people.
Right.
A lot of the things that are available online, on the internet, that it's not just films, it's not just television, that there's a lot of other new opportunities that are opening up today.
And I thought trailers, what a different world it is with the different usages and stuff. And, we've talked about this before with the explosion of all the shows that are on networks now. And you've got all these streamers that are just putting out content like crazy. There's so many more opportunities, for you, not only just in sync, but even the trailer world.
Absolutely. And the thing that you have to remember about the trailer world that makes it very, very distinct and different is that the people making the decisions creatively and financially on what music to use to market their film are an entirely different group of people. And he talks about that.
Hey, Insiders, thanks so much for tuning into this episode. We really appreciate it. To get show notes, links, and everything that was mentioned during this interview, head on over to our official website at MUBUTV.com/podcast/show notes. If you're enjoying the content and what we're doing here on the show, please subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts from. And don't forget to rate and review our show at iTunes. 5-star reviews are always welcome and help to ensure that our podcast stands out on the top-rated and new and noteworthy charts on iTunes and our space. You can also find us at social media at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter X, all ending with the handle MUBUTV, which is spelled MUBUTV. Don't forget to catch our flagship show, the MUBUTV Music Business Insider video series, airing every week on YouTube at youtube.com/MUBUTV. This show was produced and created by Rich Ezra and Eric Knight. Theme music by Disciples of Babylon, and be sure to tune in next week for another episode of the MUBUTV Music Business Insider Podcast.